So fire extinguishers are classified by both weight in terms of how big they are. They're classified by the type of extinguishing agent, so what's inside it, and as well as what type of fire they're permitted to extinguish. Generally, there's three types of fires that the public should be aware of. There is what's known as a Class A fire, so an ordinary combustible fire, that's wood, paper, plastic, general items in the household, right? There's Class B fires, which is a flammable liquid fire. So again, the pot on the stove with oil that you've forgotten about. And then the Class C fire is an electrical fire. And so while Class A fires, water is great to put them out, but you wouldn't put water on that pot on the stove fire or water on that electrical fire. ABC extinguishers would be usually the most common, or the best choice for a home, because that way you don't have to think about it. You know that if I have, regardless of what type of fire I have, this extinguisher is going to be suitable to put it out. Extinguishers can be purchased at any home supply store. Okay. Extinguishers are not required by law to be in the home. A lot of buildings out in the community, you'll find they are required to be there, but it's not required to be in your home. So the homeowner needs to ask themselves a few questions before they purchase it. They need to determine, do I really want to entertain extinguishing the fire, or would I just want to take the course of action of getting out and calling 911? Right? You need to make sure that you are comfortable in making that choice of, okay, I'm going to attempt to extinguish it. You need to make sure it's safe to do so, that the fire is still small, and that you know how to use the extinguisher, right? It's no good buying an extinguisher and bringing it home if you have no idea how to use it, because these fires start small oftentimes, but they grow fast. So the time to read the instructions on the side of the extinguisher or on the box and learn how to use it is not while the fire is burning. So these are all questions that you need to ask yourself as the homeowner. Am I going to take the time to learn how to use the extinguisher? Am I going to take the time to look after my extinguisher and make sure it stays in working condition? And do I want to even entertain the possibility of extinguishing the fire, or is my priority simply going to be, let's get out, let's get my family out, let's call 911 and let the fire department know that there is a fire and that we will come and put it out? There's no one answer to that question. You just need to be careful, right? So, for example, again, putting water in a grease fire can have disastrous results, right? I mean, you can go on YouTube and see videos of people pouring a cup of water under a grease fire and what happens, right? And fire needs three things to exist. It needs heat, fuel, and oxygen. So it all depends on the combination of what the fuel is, how much oxygen is readily available, and how much heat. Every scenario is a little bit different, but you have to keep in mind when you're trying to put fires out that you're trying to limit the heat, you're trying to limit the fuel, you're trying to limit the oxygen, one of the three, right? When we put water on a fire, we're generally reducing the heat. But that pot on the stove fire, we can't put water. So, the best choice for a pot on the stove fire is simply to take the pot lid and cover the pot again. And what we're doing is we're limiting the oxygen, right? And because the oxygen is no longer there, the fire is going to go out. So my recommendation would be to purchase an ABC extinguisher. So something that, again, is good for all the three most common types of fires you would see in a home. I wouldn't buy something overly large. The bigger the extinguisher, the heavier it is, which means perhaps the more difficult it would be to operate. So I would look for something, again, ABC, nothing too big, a 5-pound extinguisher, and that will allow you to address the fire. Again, while it's small, give you ample opportunity to do that, but not so large where it's cumbersome and difficult to manage. We would typically recommend they be somewhere in the kitchen area. Again, the kitchen is where we see most commonly fires occurring in our community, and again, that's because of our leading cause of fire is sort of that careless cooking piece. So somewhere in the kitchen. Occasionally we see someone put the extinguisher right next to the stove, and in their head they're thinking, this is where my fire is going to start if I'm going to have it, so I'm going to put the extinguisher right here. So, but the problem with that is that we don't want to endanger ourselves when we're going to get the extinguisher either. We want to make sure we can get at it safely, because as I said, the first priority is life, right? So you have to ask yourself when the fire starts, make a very quick decision of, can I safely attempt to extinguish this fire?
Right.
And part of that is safely accessing your extinguisher. So I would have it somewhere that, again, you want to make sure it's quickly accessible, so don't bury it under a cupboard or in a closet somewhere behind a bunch of other storage. But don't store it right beside your stove either, because again, you want to make some to 10 feet away, somewhere in that vicinity would allow you to access it, then approach the fire from a safe distance and attempt to extinguish it. The extinguisher itself, especially with a smaller extinguisher, it's not like turning on a tap or turning on a fire hose where it's just an endless amount of spray in there. You're going to have a very limited time where you're going to get effective spray coming out. And so, within 15 to 30 seconds, if you haven't extinguished that fire, you're going to start running out of juice, and depending on the size of your extinguisher, right?
Oh,
so
okay.
that duration will change, but the idea is that you're not going to be standing there for 5 minutes using the fire extinguisher to put it out. You're going to know relatively quickly this is working or it's not. And so you need to, again, make that decision, err on the side of caution, always err on the side of caution, make sure that, if I don't feel safe anymore, I can give up on this and get out.